Welcome to Rapid Harmony. I'm Kyle Emmanuel Brown. This is a space for high-achieving souls who want more than outcomes. You want resonance, you want truth, you want a life that moves with purpose instead of pressure. Here, we explore success with the soul and direction with depth. We slow things down just enough to hear your own wisdom again. We breathe, we question, we remember the part of you that never needed permission to leave. Every conversation is an invitation to trust yourself more than the noise around you, and live from that clarity that rises when you stop forcing and start listening. Take a breath, settle in, let's begin.
We're matching.
It's like we look like an ice skating duo. This is perfect. This is great. We are an ice skating duo. Here, hold on. There we go. We do one little spin before we start. There you go. Woo! Nice. I was a little further away. All right. But speaking of further away, let's make sure we're close enough. Are we close enough? Yeah, you're good. Nice.
Sorry.
I might throw that in the mix. We might have to do that during the... Yes.
We were rolling the whole time.
Maybe that's how we start this episode.
That's really funny.
Tell me when you're ready.
We've been ready. Go for it.
Oh, so that's all out there. Okay, we get a behind the scenes bloopers for all this
That's
too.
so funny.
Okay, so newer lifespan brain research suggests major shifts in brain connectivity and executive networks may continue into the early 30s, and that there isn't a single done age for prefrontal cortex. With that in mind, how do you think we should adapt to the way we lead younger teams and parent our kids, especially around things like impulse control, emotional regulation, and decision-making?
Such a huge question. So let me share with you part of why they're saying that research is, and it has a lot to do with the lack of movement. So there's so much that happens early in child development in their bodies, in their brain, that requires movement, right? The brain requires movement for growth. And what we're seeing is that children are more and more sedentary. They're not moving as much. They're not outside, running around, pushing things, pulling things, building things. They're not jumping off of things, they're not building forts and all the things, right? As much as they used to, because society has changed. And what we're seeing now are children more sitting around on technology, just not moving the way that bodies are designed to move. And so the speculation is this sort of lack of movement is actually impacting brain development and impacting how the brain is growing. So what's the recommendation? Kids need to be embodied. They live in their bodies. So how do we create experiences for kids where they get to embody themselves? They get to move through the world in their bodies, feeling their senses, feeling life, making their way through life through their bodies. So how do we bring some of that back?
I love it. With my kids, for me, the biggest thing that I focus on is the movement, the activity, the sports, the energetics, and everything that comes from movement amongst others. Mm-hmm. And I would rather bribe them for that than from being able to regurgitate some answer to some questions in school and get, particular grades to then forget that information, but to be couch potatoes. Mm-hmm. So I put just as much focus in the sports as I do the education at this age, which some may say is backwards, but I know for me, some of the greatest acts of resiliency and determination and enthusiasm have come from learning how to get into flow state with sports.
Yeah. Well, and the research even shows, and we know this from the world of education, that movement and learning actually go hand in hand. So in a classroom, if you have children that are just sitting there the entire time, as you said, there's taking in information, if that's the only, we'll call it learning channel, which is auditory, that's being initiated, versus bringing in movement. So stand up, move around while you're learning. Bring in rhythm, songs, clapping. This is all movement, right? Left hemisphere, right hemisphere. As you're learning math, do squats while everyone's doing math, but actually pairing movement while you're learning something actually strengthens the synaptic connections in the brain so that you actually remember the thing that you're learning even more. So that also even just speaks to, we're talking about building out the brain and using more parts of the brain. If we're just focusing a kid in one particular direction and we're leaving movement and the sensory experience out of the mix, we're not grabbing hold of what the capacity of the brain can do.
I love it. And it's a perfect reason why, for me, so many of my coaching calls are walk and talks.
Exactly.
And getting people in that sense. And so my guest today, my good friend, Lisa Dion. Now, she's a therapist, international teacher. She's the founder and president of Synergetic Play Therapy Institute and the creator of Synergetic Play Therapy, a research-informed model that blends the power of play with nervous system regulation, interpersonal neurobiology, and mindfulness. She's the author of Aggression in Play Therapy, a neurobiological approach to integrating intensity. And what I love about Lisa's work is that it's not just about helping kids or families. Mm-hmm. It's a way of understanding how our nervous system shapes every relationship, every decision, and the way we show up as leaders. So if you listening at home have ever felt hijacked in a meeting, frozen in a launch, or weirdly exhausted after holding space for everyone else, this conversation's for you. Mm-hmm. So, Lisa, I'm curious, your work began in play therapy with children. Mm-hmm. When did you first personally recognize that the same nervous system patterns, they show up in adults, especially in leaders and entrepreneurs?
What a beautiful question. And I don't even know if I can separate out a time frame, because part of what began to emerge in me that allowed the insight that this is part of what was actually missing in the world of play therapy was that it was also missing in me. Mm. So I noticed this sort of parallel process of, hold on a second, what's happening in my nervous system while I'm with this child, and then what's going on in their nervous system, and then what might I need to do within my nervous system to support then the integration of what's going on in their nervous system. So it's sort of this parallel process, so much so that when I train mental health clinicians and when I train parents and educators, yes, we're talking about how to help the child, but the crux of it is the development of the adult. So really this deep understanding of the more that the adult is able to develop their own internal capacity, that's actually the greatest skill that they can bring to that clinical space, to the experience with their own child, to the classroom, which is why it's so applicable to leaders or to a business owner or to anyone with a nervous system, because we affect others with our own nervous system states.
So nervous system and nervous system regulation has gone from something nobody knew anything about to a buzzword at this time.
Yeah.
And moving into the business space as a big buzzword, as a superpower. You've been in that state and that awareness for quite a long time, but I think a lot of people have still thought that, the only time that I need to address that is part of my morning routine or my nighttime routine, right? If I can wake up and just do 10 minutes of breath work, then I can go sit at my desk for 15 hours. Where do you think they're missing the boat with that? And where do you think, that can be added in and integrated?
Yeah. Well, let's just bring it right into this moment. You and I are sitting here and we're having this conversation, but the other conversation that's happening right now in real time is our nervous system right now is having a conversation with each other. And that happens in every moment of every interaction. So it's not about this thing that I do at this point. It is an ongoing relationship that we have with ourselves throughout the day. And then how we are in relationship with ourselves throughout the day impacts then how we're in relationship with others throughout the day. So it's this real time thing. One way to think about the nervous system that might be helpful for listeners, and particularly nervous system activation, can I actually just define that or break that down for a second? Because some people, it is a buzzword.
Right.
But buzzwords also have a lot of misunderstandings with them.
Spot on.
so let's clear up some misunderstandings. So it all starts with perception. And perception is both conscious and unconscious. And when we are talking about this conscious or unconscious perception, what we're talking about is as we move through the world, our brains essentially are scanning in the environment for anything that it perceives might be challenging. And as it's perceiving for things that might be challenging, and there's a beauty in that because we are designed for survival, essentially, right? Then it picks up on something that it might perceive as challenging. And we can go down that rabbit hole if you want to go down that rabbit hole. But it picks up on something. And then we have this beautiful autonomic nervous system that is then designed to support us in being able to handle that challenge. Right. And what might be familiar to many listeners, they've probably heard of the fight or flight response. So that's one part of the activation of the autonomic nervous system. That's our sympathetic branch. But then we have this other possibility of activation too, which is called the dorsal parasympathetic activation. And this has to do with a withdrawal and a collapse. So as I say that, I'm sure listeners are like, oh yeah, I've like been there too, right? So we either like rev up or we just start to shut down. And the difference between the two, again, goes back to perception. When I'm in a moment where I am perceiving a challenge, if some part of me perceives that I can do something about this challenge, I'm going to rev up to take the challenge on. If, however, I perceive I can't actually do something about this, it's too big, it's too much, I feel so overwhelmed by it, that actually is what's going to move me into the shutdown collapse response. Right. So again, it's the sort of, if you can even think of it as we're revving or we're shutting down based on what we perceive is going to be best for us in any given moment. So all that, to go back to what I was going to say, which is that a way to think about activation of the autonomic nervous system is that in any given moment, it's an expression of your perception. Which is why just dealing with it in the morning or at the end of the day, well, you got lots of perceptions from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. Right. And your autonomic nervous system is expressing or demonstrating those perceptions all day long. Your nervous system is also demonstrating also when you feel safe, right? And when you don't perceive a challenge also. But I just think that's just a beautiful way of thinking about it, is that our bodies don't lie. Our bodies are the big truth teller, and our activation and our behavior patterns in any given moment are really this like beautiful window into what is this person thinking right now? Or what am I thinking right now? Am I perceiving there's a challenge? Am I perceiving I'm okay right now? And it's, so I'll leave with that I'll end with that statement. Your activation is an expression of your perceptions, and your perceptions are conscious and unconscious.
I love that. And I think a lot of people view this similar to the way they view their relationship with the divine, which is like, well, it's Sunday from 11 to 12. I show up and I go to my place of worship and I'm fully all in, and there's my tapping in and connecting with the divine. And then I get to the parking lot and I'm going to run over that stroller on my way out the door because I need to hurry up and get to my next meeting. And they're completely shut off and disconnected. And to me, it sounds like all of this is about embodiment and getting to the place where it's like, if I have conscious awareness 24/7, 365, that I am controlling my state based on my perception, to me, that's empowering. And it's like once you've woken up to that, you can't really go back.
Yeah. Well, I want to jump in just on the example that you just gave. So great. I walk out of my service and then all of a sudden I realize, ooh, I'm running late. I've got to get to the thing. There's a challenge. My system just kicked into sympathetic activation, which then made me, what was it?
I said like gonna try to run over the stroller.
Well, exactly that. So that's literally a moment you had a perception.
Yep.
I'm late. I'm now revving up. I'm speeding up. And now my autonomic nervous system has just pushed me into, I'm about to run over the stroller.
Right. I used to live near a little religious center that we would go on our dog walks with our stroller. And it seemed like every time they'd be getting out the doors, we'd be feeling like it's Frogger just trying to walk across the street. I'm like, did you forget everything you just learned inside? So it was an interesting experience. And, if you're listening at home, I'm curious, have you ever really felt calm on the outside, but chaos underneath? Kind of like your body was screaming for a truth that your mind didn't want to admit. And Lisa, I'm curious, what do you think is really happening in those moments for people?
I love this question so much because it speaks to one of the biggest myths out there of the nervous system. There's a lot of hype about being calm. And being completely calm is actually a rarity. And actually in most situations, it's not possible. So a lot of individuals are set up actually to feel disappointed that they are trying to pull off something that their biology will not let them pull off. So let me unpack that.
I love it.
Okay. So when you are, or any of us are in relationship with someone else, when we talked about our nervous systems are having a conversation, if someone else is activated in some way, which is often, right? We see people that are activated in the world. Our nervous systems are actually designed to feel that activation. So for example, if someone is highly anxious and we are in relationship in the moment with them, and by the way, this could be the person standing next to you at the grocery store. This doesn't have to be like your kid or your spouse or your best friend. I mean, this literally you're driving. We got the person in a little road rage or something going on right next to you, right? But we pick up on all these different, nervous systems. We are designed to feel how other people feel. We are energetic beings. Our nervous systems are energetic in nature. So here's where it gets a little interesting. So let's say that you and I are having interaction and you are having some anxiety. You're pretending not to. So you are trying to be calm on the outside. My body picks up on the fact that you're actually not calm.
Yes.
Because my body and my mind are picking up on all the subtlety and all the clues that are letting me know how you're actually doing. So here we go. My system is picking up on some of your anxiety. So I'm now all of a sudden feeling something in me. Well, let's say I now have a message in my head that says, well, don't show your anxiety. Don't show now that you're feeling anxious, or try to be calm. So then we arrive in this position of your question, which is that I'm trying to look calm on the outside, but inside I'm absolutely feeling chaos on the inside, which is the majority of the time for a lot of people. This happens a lot in parenting. If I can connect the dots on something, because I know many of our listeners probably have kids, one of the big sort of hype things these days that we hear is that a child who's activated needs a calm adult. Absolutely not. Because of what I just shared, an adult who's around an activated child, biologically speaking, is not going to be calm on the inside.
Right.
But if they then try to pretend like they're calm, what actually happens inside the child is the child looks at that parent and goes, "You're not congruent." And incongruency is one of those challenges that our brain scans for in the environment that actually can feel like a threat. So now we have a parent that's feeling chaotic inside. They're trying to be calm on the outside because that's what I'm supposed to do to keep it together because my kid's activated. But they can't actually pull off being calm. And now we've got a child who's energetically picking up that their parent is BSing their way through the moment,
Right.
which actually then creates a challenge inside the child's brain and actually escalates the child or shuts the child down. So let's reframe this whole thing to say what we're going for is not calm. Period.
Right.
What we're going for is connected.
I love that.
And connected allows us to be real. It allows us to be deeply human. It allows us to not have to lie about our experience, but we also can do it with presence in a way that allows the individual that we're in relationship with to know, you actually don't have to take care of me right now. I actually can be activated and I'm deeply okay. That's the goal.
I love that. Well, first thing it reminds me of is in the movie Madagascar, where the lion is sitting here looking at the zebra as a steak and trying its best to just pretend that it's just its friend. And it has to learn to adapt to that. And I think, we can understand that if it's a lion and a zebra, and we say those things over there are animals. But I think we forget that we're mammals. It's like we learn one of the real things that we learn in high school that actually is usable in our everyday actions, but is completely forgotten about, is symbiosis, is understanding our role within the animal kingdom and how our biology is wired that way. And it's wired that way for a reason. It's not a mistake. It's an opportunity. And I think with that, a lot of adults seem to carry stress that looks like personality on the outside, but it's actually old wiring on the inside. And how do childhood regulation patterns shape that adult leadership?
Yeah, beautiful. So everything we've been talking about so far, again, we could just transfer over to that leadership space.
Right.
So the leader is going to pick up on all the nervous systems of their employees.
Right.
And if we've got a leader that's pretending to be calm, they're actually going to freak their employees out, which is different than being connected. And we can unpack that even more if you want to unpack that at some point.
Yeah. Let's dig into that connectivity piece.
Yes.
So with that connectivity piece, is most of this a sub-perceptual or like awareness, like a subconscious awareness? Because I think a lot of people are so going about their day that they're not consciously aware of these things. Yet they know if they walk into a room and two people were just making out in the office side room that, hey, something feels a little off. There might be some connection here. Or if they were just fighting in that room, that something is going on. Yeah. But they don't really know what or why. Yeah.
So let me tie what we're talking about into the role of leadership, and I'll weave in the question about our old historical stuff.
Right.
Okay. So we have a leader of a company, group, whatever, and some chaos has emerged in the company. I don't know, let's make something up. Let's say, this was coming to mind. Let's say it's time to do a budget review or something, or there's a financial report that's happening. And let's say that it becomes very apparent that this company's not doing well, right? That there's a big financial loss. Okay, well, we can imagine that employees are going to get activated in that potentially.
Yeah.
And we can imagine that the leader might get activated in that potentially.
Right.
Now, every single person in that company is filtering the current experience of the money loss through what I call their historical filing cabinet. So all their past experiences related to all the perceptions that are involved. So maybe for someone that activates, I'm going to lose my job. Well, and then I'm not going to be able to provide. And then that's connected to that time early on in their own family when all of a sudden, when their family all of a sudden didn't have enough food on the table, right. And now we've got major anxiety that's on the scene. Maybe for somebody else, it's not quite like that. Maybe it's oh my goodness, someone's going to find out about this, or someone's going to think that it's part of my performance that contributed to this. But you know what? That touches in on that old story that I have growing up where I wasn't good enough, or I did it wrong. And so I'm actually shaking in my boots because there's a part of me that feels like I'm about to get in trouble because I'm about to get blamed for this. So same scenario, two very different activations with different history. Maybe the leader, what's coming up for the leader is it's touching into shame, some deep shame around, gosh, I didn't do it the way. I'm a disappointment, right? I'm a disappointment. I'm a failure. All these people depended on me, and maybe that touches in on their historical filing cabinet, and what's in their historical filing cabinet. Where this comes into play is, likely these individuals aren't sitting around going, oh, wow, I just felt activated. And I believe right now that that's connected back to that memory that I had when I was 4 years old. And no, it just feels really real and it feels really scary right now. And the animal brain has kicked in full gear for survival. And they are going into that sympathetic fight or flight, or they are shutting down into that dorsal withdrawal experience, because that's what the body's doing for survival. The more tethers there are to the old wounds, the higher the probability that the old patterns that dealt with those wounds from the past are going to be what tries to manage what's happening in the moment. So that's the connection. Right. So let's say that the leader, when growing up, when shame was touched in their sort of coping strategy for shame was to get defensive and justify and to try to prove everybody wrong that, no, I am a good person. Well, if that's an unresolved wound, there's a high probability this leader now, because this leader doesn't yet know how to connect with themselves in the midst of this, which is where the healing is. What's going to happen, likely unconsciously, is this leader might have a part that emerges that is trying to justify, trying to blame, trying to deflect responsibility, trying to make excuses or whatever, all those old patterns that they absolutely had to do when they were 5 or 6 or 7 years old, for survival. Right. And then we have a leader that is not actually, let's say, in their 50s, but we now have a 6-year-old that's trying to lead the company. That's right. Not a 50-year-old. And we have a 6-year-old that's trying to lead this very intense moment. And this 6-year-old is trying to interact with the 2-year-old and the 3-year-old and the 5-year-old and the infant and all the other littles that are in the room, because everybody's activated and there's no adult on the scene.
So if there's no adult on that scene, as the leader, I'm a big fan. I think a lot of people say, think, speak, act. I'm a big fan of align, think, speak, act. So how would you recommend in that moment the leader get themselves to a place of center before they start reacting to everything or acting like a freaking out 6-year-old?
So I think we can just add a component of the align, which is that I have to recognize that I'm not aligned.
Right.
So I don't even know to connect if I don't know I'm not connected. So this is where the mindfulness piece comes in. So as the leader, can I become aware that I'm activated? It's just like awareness. Can I become aware that I'm scared? Can I become aware that I'm posturing? Can I become aware that I want to shut down, that I want to run away and hide? Can I become aware that I just want to yell at everybody and say really, really mean things or blah, or whatever? I want to throw a temper tantrum. Or can I just become aware? There's a beautiful thing in mindfulness in that the moment that we become mindful, we create inner connection with ourselves.
Yes.
So the act of mindfulness and connection go hand in hand. And it does something really beautiful in the brain. When I have a moment of mindful awareness, in synergetic play therapy, we actually call it a moment of attaching, right? So a moment that I attach inward, or I like to think of it as I come home for a moment, yes. Right? There's I come home. What happens is that I then activate another part of my autonomic nervous system called the ventral parasympathetic response. And this ventral state now gives me access into the higher centers of my brain. So it helps me move above the animal. And as I'm moving above the animal, I now can engage in things like rational thought. I can engage in foresight. I can actually have a conscious conversation. That's maybe a little bit more clear.
Right.
I can be a bit more aware of what's happening inside of me. And in that moment of inner connection, and this is the part around where it's not about being calm, now I have the ability to modulate. And that's the key word. I can begin to modulate the intensity inside of me so that I can be present with the intensity. It's not necessarily making it go away. It's just, can I be with it? Because the interesting thing to think about is my team actually needs me to be in the chaos with them. My team needs me to feel this with them. But if I'm over here pretending like I'm good, everybody, I'm good. I'm zenned out over here. And you're not, like, what a disconnect as a leader. Very, if someone's listening going, what does this look like? It looks like this. I'm having a team meeting and the report comes out and you feel that everyone just got scared with the report. And I become aware for a moment that my stomach just went, or whatever it is. And I pause and I take a breath. And I just take a breath and I connect to myself and I connect to the energy in the room. And what happens in those moments is that my team is going to begin to borrow my nervous system. So here's another way of thinking about this. When chaos hits or a hard moment hits, it's like we all are going, who's got the most, I'm going to use the word regulated, but again, not calm, poised. Maybe that's the right word. Who's got the most poised nervous system in here? And everyone's like scanning the environment for who's got the most poised nervous system, because they're looking for the anchor in the room. That's the leader's job, is to show up, not denying the chaos, but can you bring forth a more poised nervous system in the midst of the chaos, because everyone's going to start to orient to you. And from that place, I get to go, all right, team, this is some scary news. I bet everyone's freaking out right now. I'm freaking out. It's okay to freak out. This is not what we wanted in this quarter. So you know what? We're just going to take a breath, everyone. Right? We're not going to deny that this is not good news. Right? Again, I'm not denying it, right? Yep, this is scary stuff, not denying it. So we're going to breathe here. We'll look around. Look, we've all got each other. All right. Let's start to put a plan together, folks.
I love this. And to me, one of the greatest ways, if we want to be the observer in these moments, is through high-level sports. So a perfect example that's coming to mind for me right now is the way the culture was changed by my alma mater, Indiana. Signetti came in and took
well
this
done, by the way.
crappy team. Yeah, it's a weird thing. You know, I played water polo there, and to watch, like I knew some people who played on the football team, but I forgot we even had a football team for the most part while I was there. And he took the losingest culture in college football history and he shifted it. And what I thought was one of the most interesting moments where I'm like, okay, this guy really is a winner, is he not only took them when they're in this, you know, freeze fold energy of like, we're just defeated and we're the bad news
That's that
bears.
parasympathetic. Yes. They're that
Right. And so he also took them in this moment of the highest of highs when they're celebrating. And the words that came out of his mouth there were, I have 3 weeks to get this team humble and hungry again to go win a national championship.
Yes.
So in the business realm, just like in physical transformation, I see sort of two sides, which is the one side where people fall off to the side where they just get into a spiraling, I fell off the wagon, and the guilt and the shame. then the other side is a complacency of like, everything is so easy. I can take my foot off the gas and just sort of scoot by and let everything happen and take for granted all of the pieces that put them into this great position in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to this nervous system,
Mm-hmm.
where would that fit in the
Mm-hmm.
process? And what do you usually think is a great spark to get people back to being present and here and now and in the moment?
Yeah, I'm going to jump off of your sports analogy. So Tiger Woods actually has someone that walks with him when he plays, and his sole job is when he goes high is to bring him back to connected. When he goes low is to bring him back up to connected. Because when he's in the state we're talking about, it doesn't mean Tiger Woods isn't feeling stuff. It's just that he's connected and he's poised in the midst of all the activation, because that is where you have your highest potency. It's like right there on that edge of comfortable and uncomfortable, right? That's your highest place of potency. So that's why I heard you just said, with the coach, right? Recognizing, look, we gotta get you out of the swing, and we gotta get you connected, because you're not going to win unless you are connected. Same thing with the leader, with their team, the leader to develop this inner capacity of being able to work their own inner activation, because it starts with the leader. Mm-hmm. The leader has to learn how to connect here first, so that then the team can follow. So they're like the barometer. I like to think of whether it's a team business, or I love looking at classrooms like this. You can even look at a family system like this. It's one giant nervous system that's attempting to equilibrate itself. And so, whether it's the teacher in front of the classroom, whose job is to recognize that, Sarah over there is about to pop through the roof in sympathetic arousal, and it's being balanced over here by, by Danny, who wants to shut down and hide in the corner, and that's actually a balance in the room. But I can recreate the balance. How do I begin to connect and work my own system so that then I can bring the group into, because this is just as balanced as this.
Right.
So I get to play with the harmony of the group. The same thing in a family system. We can have, our families are constantly shifting between, this person's over here going sympathetic and this person's going dorsal. And then there's moments when everyone's a bit more, regulated, but then it switches them. This person's this way, or the kids are fighting, and then the parents are pulling back. And it's one giant nervous system that's trying to find its rhythm and its connected spot. And so it's like, I think a great question, doesn't matter if it's a family, if it's a school environment, if it's the therapist with the kid in the classroom, if it is, a leader in business. I think the question for us to consider is, do I have a nervous system that's worth borrowing?
Mm.
And if my answer is no, what do I need to do to develop that capacity within me so that I have choice about, is this a moment where I might want to lend my nervous system to those around me? Because what an extraordinary gift.
I love that. I actually look at that as a big part of my one-on-one coaching. Mm. When I'm going really deep with people who are in huge life transitions, is to hold that energetic container where they can then feel safe to process and get back to a place where their nervous system can then lead. And I think for high performers, often they're saying, well, I'm fine, while they're really running on fumes. And I love the acronym, fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional for fine. So what are the subtle signs that a nervous system is slipping outside the window of tolerance?
Oh, so good. Well, with the population that you just described, one of them is busy mind. Really busy mind. If we have really, really busy mind, That's a beautiful clue that we've switched really, really left brain. And sometimes, I'm not going to say always, but okay, I'll say often. Oftentimes, when we have a high strategy towards problem solving, staying analytic, go, keep it, this whole thing, that's often a developed protective response from something back there. And think of it this way. If I stopped, what would I have to deal with? If my mind got quiet, what would I have to feel? What restlessness would I have to deal with? What anxiety would I have to deal with? What feelings of inadequacy, or I'm not performing, or would I actually have to deal with? So that's a big one. It's just busy body, busy mind.
Yeah. I love that. And what that brings up for me when I've looked at with coaching and guidance of people is when someone's like, oh, I heard microdosing, mushrooms can be, or LSD can be incredibly beneficial for, helping with this underlying root problem of that busy mind. And then they will start the process and immediately go, I didn't like this. Mm-hmm. And you'll ask them why. And usually the why is because they had to deal with what was underneath the surface.
Exactly.
All the stuff that they've suppressed or repressed or, chosen alcohol at the end of the day instead of actually addressing those stories that they're constantly repeating and looping on in behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And so as someone's going through this type of a transformation, when they're like, okay, I'm stepping into this level of self-mastery as a leader, and I'm responsible for all these other people, and I know that my nervous system being in a harmonized state is going to be an important superpower. What do you think we can do as leaders helping these people to really inspire them to wake up to the importance and significance of their nervous system?
Yeah. I think that I think deep down, if people were really honest, if you ask the question, do you feel fulfilled? I mean, just that question, if I said like, oh, I'm like so successful, I'm this and that, and oh my gosh, we just knocked it out of the ballpark. And it's like, oh, that's fantastic. Are you fulfilled? Like, not in the bank, but like, are you fulfilled? And I think when someone struggles to connect inward, or they have a lot of unresolved things from their past, and look, I don't want to sugarcoat this. There's always work to be done. There's always something to work on. And it's not, what we're talking about is not an easy process by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a beautiful process. And the more we do, the more moments of fulfillment begin to emerge in our lived experience. And so I don't know if it needs to be any convincing other than, do you feel fulfilled? And then what is that like for you that you aren't?
Right. I think a lot of, to add to that, I think a lot of ways people can tap into the, am I fulfilled or not, is the excessive desire for more.
Totally.
And, the Japanese have Hari Hachibu, which is eat to 80% full, and I'm good. And I think when I've looked at a lot of these high performers, they've thought, oh yeah, I'm fulfilled, I'm happy, I'm great. And they'll answer it in a defensiveness way. But then you'll look and it's like, but I just bought a third Ferrari I don't need. Mm-hmm. And I have 7 girls that I'm juggling. And I eat in this crazy excess, moving from one taste to the next, to the next, to the next. And it's because they're looking at fulfillment as an outside job rather than an inside job.
Exactly.
And so with leaders, you talk that calm isn't really the goal. Then what is the goal, and why do you think that this forced calm is making them backfire all the time?
Because they're trying to be someone that they're not.
Hmm.
And they're trying to pull off something that they biologically can't, which just leads to futility and just continues the feelings of I'm not good enough, which is very different than, how about you just go for being a real leader, just an authentic leader? Let's even lower the bar. How about a human leader?
Yes.
Let's just be a human leader, because my experience has been when people in a company see their leader as another human being who's on this journey, who is sometimes a little messy, but who deeply cares, who tries, who takes responsibility, who jumps back in the game, who recognizes that, sometimes they make decisions or they say things and they overwhelm the team. Mm-hmm. They send the team into chaos because, their 6-year-old decided to lead the boardroom meeting that day. Okay, fine. But the leaders that come back around and they're like, oh, yeah, sorry, folks. Not really how I had planned on handling, that one last week. The permission that it gives then the individuals in the company then to also be human beings, I think is so beautiful. Now, I'll say that, Brene Brown talks a lot about vulnerability, and she actually catches a lot of heat around this, particularly in the space of leaders, particularly male leaders. Like, what do you mean I'm going to be vulnerable if what are you talking about? That's a sign of weakness.
Right.
And it's actually quite the opposite, because we're all craving to have human connection. I'm not talking about show up and pour your heart out to your team about all the things that are happening in your life. I'm just talking about how about we start to look at why we care so much about looking a particular way, and why we care so much about what people think about us, and why we care so much about our own ego and our own need to, get the pat on the back, or our own need for our team to deeply appreciate us, or our own, because that's all of our stuff. I'm just talking about, can we work towards being a bit more embodied, a bit more real, a bit more human, a bit more connected? Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, it's what it seems we all really want at the end of the day.
I love it. It really, for me, this leads into something that may be seen as a little bit controversial, but there's a lot of talk right now amongst leaders on the idea of imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. And the way it's being addressed is like, okay, well, at least we all know that we have this imposter syndrome. So just love yourself and keep doing the things the exact same way. And I disagree. I personally think so much imposter syndrome is people who actually are being imposters. Mm-hmm. And they're looking at these 2D metrics, and they're dehumanizing not only their employees, but the consumers of their products mm-hmm. and their businesses. And they're using these business marketing terms like, they're a conversion, like you're trying to change their religion or something along those lines. Or, they're an acquisition, like they're a slave. And so much of this concept, I think, is what's leading them into that state where they're like, okay, I'm something inside of me isn't feeling right. Mm-hmm. And I think the mainstream approach right now is, oh, well, you probably just have imposter syndrome, and that's okay. We all have it. So just love yourself more.
Yeah.
Instead of understanding maybe your nervous system is talking to you.
Remember how I said that the brain is scanning for certain things? Mm-hmm. One of them we've already mentioned, which is incongruence in the environment, which is why the whole pretending to be calm on the outside when you're feeling chaotic on the inside, that actually registers in individuals as a threat or a challenge. But one of the other ones is trying to be someone that you're not. And the messages of, I should be like this. those internal should. I should be like this, or I should be more like this, or when we hear someone else should us, you should be like this, or you should be more like this. Our brain is actually wired to pick up on messages that are messages geared towards, again, us trying to be someone different than who we are. And then what happens is that we go to battle within ourselves. So you literally have an internal fight between you and this fantasy version of who you think you should be, right? This, it's like who you actually are versus why are you talking like that? That's not you, or who are, this is who I am. And why am I even leading in an industry that I don't care about? Well, let's just talk about that, right? People that have a job that they don't actually really love. Or I'm trying to market in a particular way because I took this course on marketing, and marketing says that the way that you market is this is a step 1, and then you go to step 2, and then you've got to do the thing. And that's not my authentic version of marketing. And so and it's not working for me. Gee, I wonder why. Because it's not you. It's not your natural way that you market. So I think there's a lot of splits, and particularly in the world of entrepreneurship, there's a lot of messages about what a leader should look like, how they should be, how you should run a business, how you should track your business operations, what it should look like. And it doesn't always jive with who the leader is, because the leader doesn't get to be authentic and who they are, which is going to increase all that autonomic nervous system activation.
And just because it's working according to the 2D metrics, we're like, well, you're our top salesperson. And wow, the company's grown 274%. Like that checking inside piece of like, well, that's great. I'm miserable. I feel like I've been conning people.
Exactly.
It just reminded me of a funny little story when I was trying to make money to go live in London my junior year abroad. Had to pay for it, decided last minute. I got this job doing phone sales in a room about this size, no windows, everybody smoking besides me. I think I was one of the only guys. And what we were doing is we'd pick up the phone, somebody would be on the other end, and we had to basically say, you won an opportunity to get on a cruise. You didn't win the cruise. You won a free watch. You get these 5 free monthly magazines if you sign up for this weekly magazine for the next 5 years. And that was every sale. And so I'm like, okay, I have this end goal, which is I want to pay to live in London for the year. And I end up breaking corporate records that summer. I had a week of like 54. So 54 people gave me $757 and something cents for 5 years of U.S. News and World Report that they're not going to read because of some magazines that they didn't need. And the external celebration was great, but the internal incongruence was horrible. And I couldn't get the script out of my mind. And there was total disconnection. And in those types of moments, you say the body never lies. So how can someone tell if a reaction is their fear, is their intuition, or it's just some old imprint running the script?
Okay, the story that's coming to mind to help elicit this. So I'll tell the story and then we can go wherever you want to go with this. It's actually how I make business decisions.
Okay.
It's a game I play called Red Light, Green Light. Okay.
Nice.
So what I do if there's a decision that I need to make is I will sit quietly and I'll connect. Okay. So I'll just breathe. I'll connect in. And once I feel that I've connected, I will make a statement about that decision. So for example, I might say something like, I'm going to write my next book I'll start it in 2 months, right? I'll just do whatever. And then I watch what happens in my body. And if there's no activation in my body, that's a green light. That means go. Nada. Go. There's nothing in the way. You're aligned. Nervous system is, you're not perceiving a challenge with just boom, go for it. If I feel activation, then I get curious. It doesn't mean it's a no. It's a curiosity. And then that curiosity leads me into one of two places. is there a fear here? So this is congruent, but there's a fear here that I need to work through.
Right.
Or did I actually just say something that's out of alignment? And if I try to do it, I'm going to be someone that I'm not. So what I will do then is I will, and sometimes there's a little deeper sense about it if I get really honest with myself. But if I sense that there's a fear or some sort of old stuff that I need to work through, then I'll give myself the opportunity to work through that. So I'll work through the fears,
Right.
I'll do that, and then I'll come back around and then I'll ask again.
Mm.
And I won't go forward until I get a green light. So I actually allow my body to tell me whether or not that decision is a decision that is a yes for me, or I'm not sure, or eventually that was a great idea, could have done it. Many people think I should have done it, but in my heart of hearts, it's not really what I wanted to spend my time and energy on. Because there's a lot of great ideas. I only have so much time in the world.
I love it. I know Louise Hay talks a lot about how your body is your subconscious mind.
Right.
And for me, when I was writing Total Self-Trust, I was looking at, segmenting all these different parts of us, not in the way people talk about parts, but in the way of understanding your full completeness.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the ego, the earth guide only, is Wayne Dyer's way of looking at it as a piece. And then there was no acronym for the self. Mm-hmm. So I came up with sacred, empowered, luminous force, like your light being. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times that's what you are doing is you're saying, okay, your amygdala, for example, like which I have my clients call Amy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Amy's telling you, hey, well, be careful, be this, be that. But that's sounds to me like when you're doing this green light, red light, you're tuning in to your wholeness. Mm-hmm. And really embodying like, is this here? And then you're constantly waiting to bring it back to a green. So if this thing goes, because it sounds like that's sort of like a yellow light that's looping you back, but when it gets to a clear red light, what do you do or recommend people do at that part where they can sit in and be like, okay, this is a red light, so I shouldn't have FOMO?
Right. So I think that's a beautiful question. Sometimes when we have certainty about something, the thing that then still prevents us from being able to stick to our own boundary around it is that we have more fears.
Right.
I don't want to disappoint so-and-so. Oh, I'll just do it a little bit, or whatever it is. So I think a great question that we can ask ourselves is, if I chose to do this, how would this be a massive disservice to who I am? And how would this actually, if I actually said yes and did this thing that this person wants me to do, how would it even be a disservice to them? Awesome. Because if I can see how actually me trying to do the thing that they want me to do from a place of incongruency, that actually has the possibility of bringing about some pain for them or bringing about something that's not even on their radar. Look, I want to be a caring individual. So I'm going to do also not only what's in my best interest, but what I perceive is in their best interest. So if I can see that by me being someone I'm not, just to do the thing, but that's going to cause you pain, why would I do that? I care about you too much to say yes to this thing that you really want me to do, even though I know that might be really disappointing for you.
I love that. And again, that's a beautiful frame to put around, because you're looking from the other side of the lens, which is like, what are the possible detriments that can happen in these moments? I want to circle us back into play. Okay. Because play is such a really interesting part of my life. I use the idea of, for success metrics for clients, of 400 laughs, where the average kid laughs 400 times a day. The average adult laughs 4. Adulting, don't want to do it. I jokingly say my goal is to be diagnosed with Peter Pan syndrome. And I want, and also on a spiritual level, I look at the most enlightened beings, and they're hilarious and they're childlike and they're playful, and it's great. And play is really at the center of your work.
Mm-hmm.
So for adults who think they're too busy to play, what does play actually look like?
Mm-hmm.
And why does it regulate the nervous system so powerfully?
Yeah. So when we think about play, we typically think of children.
Right.
But if we can expand it out and go, what is play to a child? It's the thing that they engage in that's most meaningful for them. That's ultimately what it is.
Right.
So a child may love to build things because that's what's meaningful for them. Another child's version of play might be taking care of the dolls because they love to nurture and caretake. Another child's version of play might be more in like the sports arena, right? And they love to just go out there and kick the ball or throw the ball or run or whatever it is because the world of athleticism is deeply meaningful for them. Another kid's version of play might be some kind of, they love playing, they love putting puzzles together, right? Because their mind loves to do those kinds of things.
Right.
Excuse me. Adults are no different. It's just not with a toy. And so it just comes down to adults play when they do what they love.
That's right.
But do we give ourselves permission to really do what we love? That's a whole other question. So an adult that deeply loves to be a nurture and caregiver, they love being a mom or dad or whatever, is, according to their brain, they are playing.
Right.
It's fun. It's not that there's not challenge, but there's a fluidity to it. There's an ease to it. Someone that loves sports as an adult may still be out there training or doing this, and when they engage in it, they're in their flow. There's an ease to it. Again, not that there's not challenge. They still got to run up the hill.
Right.
It's still hard.
Right.
But they're higher centers of their brain. The animal isn't the one doing it. Right. They're in higher centers of their brain. Their autonomic nervous system is more synced up. Their capacity for challenge, is greater. Their ability to problem solve, is greater. One of my forms of play, I love to teach. That's how I play. I play with the audience. I play with the question. I'm playing right now here with you.
Right.
This is, in my brain right now, we're playing.
And when you're doing this type of play,
yeah,
does it get you into the same type of flow state where you lose all sense of time and space?
It can, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, I think that's a great way also to know if you're playing.
Yeah.
And tune in when you are done playing.
Mm-hmm.
Are you exhausted?
Mm-hmm.
Are you energized?
Mm-hmm.
Are you fulfilled?
Right.
And I think that's a really great key. I want to hit you with a couple of rapid fire questions.
Okay, great. Go for it.
Roll right in. So First one, what's one belief about emotions leaders need to retire?
Oh, they need to retire.
Yeah. What's a belief about emotions that they need to retire?
That if you express them to your employees, that's a bad thing.
Right.
That you need to hide them.
I love that.
Yeah.
What's one micro practice that shifts your state fast?
Proprioceptive input. Proprioceptive input is input into your bones and your joints. So what that means, so actually right now you and I are doing it. See how both of us have our hands clasped and our knuckles are touching? We're giving, there's an extraordinary amount of input that's happening right now between our fingers.
Yep.
And right now, this is grounding. Yes?
And activating both hemispheres of the brain.
Exactly. So anything into bones and joints. So it could be, right, we're holding hands here. This is a great one for leaders at a table or at a business meeting. Another one, sometimes you see leaders do this where they cross their arms and they sort of can pull inwards, but you're bringing energy into your bones and in your joints. You can anchor your feet into the ground. One that I love to do, I call it the tripod, where I put one hand on each of my thighs and I just anchor down into my thighs. So again, energy into bones and joints. Other ones that I'll just mention and I'll describe in case someone is not getting the visual here that we naturally do. You might notice when you get overwhelmed, your hands naturally go on your neck. Like, have you ever done this where you're like, right? So this is, again, energy into bones and joints. Sometimes people just go, oh no, right? And they put their hands on their head. So this is also energy into your bones and your joints. But all of these motions of holding on to a part of your body are incredibly organizing to the autonomic nervous system.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I'll say one more rapid fire question is, what is one myth about regulation that drives you wild?
That people think that it means calm.
Yeah. I love that.
It means connected. It does not mean calm. You get to be activated and poised at the same time.
Every morning when I'm doing my shamanic rituals, I walk outside barefoot, put my feet on the ground, and there's no saying the word calm. But what I do say is I am grounded. Yeah. I am connected. I am divinely protected. And I deeply and completely love, forgive, and accept myself. And that's the start of my rituals every morning to get into that alignment, which is the connection piece. And I think the connection is absolutely everything.
Absolutely.
And God, we have a generation that thinks connected means Wi-Fi.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Connected is, maybe we'll end on this. Yeah. My definition of emotional intelligence is the ability to be with. That's it.
Ability to be with.
So can I be with my sadness? Can I be with my anxiety? Can I be with my overwhelm, my confusion? I don't have to do anything about it. Just, can I be with it? Can I notice it? Can I know deeply that even though I'm anxious, I'm also okay? Can I know that in my moment of I'm so pissed off that I'm okay? Can I know that, in my moment of overwhelm, I'm okay? That to me is emotional intelligence. And that's the part that we can keep working towards as leaders, as parents, as teachers, as adults in kids' lives, because every single adult also has a lot of kids inside of them. So at the end of the day, we're just working with a bunch of kids.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you
You're
for
welcome.
spending the morning with me.
Thank you.
And where's a good way that people can learn more or follow you and hop on the play train?
Yeah. So synergeticplaytherapy.com is probably the easiest way to find me. That's our website for the Institute. We also have synergeticeducation.com because we take all this into school districts and all that too, if that's more the cup of tea. And also can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Lisa Dion, and on Facebook.
I love it. Well, thank you for the conversation. And then for everyone listening at home, one key takeaway that it really needs to hit home that Lisa was getting at today is that your nervous system isn't a problem. It's a compass. You want to work with it. And then self-trust becomes natural. So if this episode spoke to you, make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who leads with heart. And I'll see you next time on Rapid Harmony.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right, my friend, if this episode sparked something in you, don't just wander off into the abyss of the internet. Hit subscribe so you can actually get the good stuff when it drops. And if you're feeling generous or mildly enlightened, leave some love in a review. It takes just 30 seconds, and somehow it feeds the algorithm gods so they know to send more people who really need it. Now, if you want to step deeper into my world, rapidharmony.com is where the real magic lives. Coaching, community, rituals, and a few surprises that are way better than just scrolling around another motivational reel and not doing anything about it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being you. And remember, your inner harmony isn't hiding. It's just waiting for you to pay attention. I'll see you on the next episode. Now go subscribe before you forget.